Back to throw, Marino. Here's a deep pattern down the far corner. It is tipped. Blocked. Touchdown. Great reception by Mark Clayton. Holy Toledo, what a grab. That ball was tipped by Clayton on the defensive back. Clayton kept his concentration, waited for it to come down, grabbed it on the sideline of the end zone, kept both feet in bounds, and held onto the football, showing what a great receiver he has turned into.
It is finally time, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Finn's Temporal Focus, and we're going to talk about the name a little bit because it has everything to do with what this video is about. I have talked about, I was wanting to do a making the case for Mark Clayton, my personal favorite Dolphins wide receiver of all time. By far, actually, my favorite. O.J. McDuffie would probably be my second if anybody wants to know. Jalen Waddle's getting up there. I love Jalen. But my point is, Finn's Temporal Focus, when I came up with that name, I wanted something that was something about the past, present, and the future. And then I realized, I found actually a thing that was temporal focus. Temporal focus is the study of the past, present, and future. So there you have Finn's Temporal Focus, which is where the name of this channel comes from. We haven't done a lot of past. It's mostly been present and future stuff that we've talked about on the channel. Today, I want to remedy that. We've talked a little bit on some of the videos, just mentioning past people. But this is the first time that I've dedicated this episode to a past player. And I wanted to do this back in March. When they were doing the Hall of Fame, Mark Clayton made it into the final 80. Actually, I believe it was him. Let's see, I think I've got some of it wrote down. I know it was him, Richmond Webb, which Richmond Webb actually went further. I'd also like to make a video on him. So you guys tell me if this is something that you're interested in at all, or you have something that you would like to discuss. You're welcome to leave comments, and I'll answer each and every one. Especially right now because I'm so small, each and every one is one. So, point being, but Bob Kuechenberg made that final 80, I believe. Bill Stanfield, Dick Anderson, and it seems like it was somebody else. But maybe I'm just thinking because I already said Richmond Webb. But Richmond Webb, I know he made it quite a ways for the old-timer Hall of Fame guys. Which I get it. Sterling Sharp got it. Which he'll come into play here. And granted, I know he was injured. Now, I am one of those. A lot of people are going to be like, well, you have to have a long career to be in the Hall of Fame or in any Hall of Fame. No, you don't. I think there's people that get overlooked. A lot of people do. A lot of people, including Hall of Famers, absolutely hate that Terrell Davis is in the Hall of Fame. But if you look at what he done, and I think he only played 5 or 6 years, I think you have to take into account what did they do in that length of time. It's not their fault they got injured. It happens. It's a violent game. Anybody can get injured at any time, and it's over. But I mean, now some guy, now Mark Clayton, it's a good thing that he had a decent long career. He wouldn't have made it in that sense just because of the accolades. But Terrell Davis, won 2 Super Bowls. And say what you want, I am a John Elway fan. I love John Elway. I actually think he's right there. I don't know. I know he's in my top 3 quarterbacks of all time. But they did not win those Super Bowls because of John Elway. Now, the Atlanta Super Bowl, yes, he played a big part of it. But the reason he played a big part of it is because they were determined to stop Terrell Davis. And Terrell Davis is the reason. The reason. Helicopter spin, out of the question for John Elway. Yes, that was the point. And I'm even watching that Super Bowl going, Denver just won this game. When John Elway took that helicopter spin, I'm going, Green Bay's not winning this ball game. But make no mistakes about it. Denver won both of those Super Bowls because of Terrell Davis. And the numbers that he put up in the time that he played. And I'm not going to argue with Warren Sapp, mostly because, he's big. But I know there's a lot of Hall of Famers that feel that way, that Terrell Davis shouldn't be there. I'm okay with it. I don't think injury should have anything to do. If you shine like twice as bright in that time that you do have. Now, I'm not saying, if you're in the league for 5 or 6 years and you get 5 or 6 Pro Bowls and, you're averaging 1,000 yards or whatever, it's just kind of that where it would be longevity. But he had, 2,000 yards in a season. He went to 2 Super Bowls, won both of those Super Bowls. The way he came into the league, and believe me, this is a Mark Clayton video. I know I'm talking a lot about Terrell Davis, but the reason I bring it up is because of Sterling Sharpe. And I do believe Sterling Sharpe falls into that category. His light was twice as bright in that short period that he was in the league. So I went off on a little bit of a tangent, and I apologize because this is about Mark Clayton. But my point is, Sterling Sharpe's the one that actually got that Hall of Fame vote, and congratulations to him. He should be in the Hall of Fame without question. Sterling Sharpe should be in the Hall of Fame. Now, the question I'm posing is, should Mark Clayton be in the Hall of Fame? It's such a hard question. I actually do not know the answer, so please, let me know what you think. Because I'm going to break it down like this. If you look at his numbers today, then no. There's no chance. He is by far and away way down here on the picking order. He wouldn't have a shot. But you can't do it that way. You have to look at where he was when he retired. Now, Mark Clayton was 5'9", 180 pounds, and I've listened to a lot of guys. I love Doug. If you get a chance, go check out Dudley Do Wrong. I'm subscribed to him. I love his stuff. He has great content. But here lately, he's talked about how the Dolphins were, fade routes to Tyreek Hill, and how we should have bigger receivers, which, that's fine. It's all fine. But Mark Clayton was 5'9", and he caught tons of fades in the end zone because he knew how to work it. if you're not able to do it, then it's not because you're short, it's because you don't know how to run a route. That particular route. I better not say you can't run a route. I know Jalen Waddle, although I haven't seen Jalen Waddle really try a lot of fades. I haven't seen him go to him. It's been more Tyreek Hill. Of course, when we had Gesicki, I know Gesicki, they went to him on some fades. But my point being, Mark Clayton could catch a fade. He could take you on a post. He could jump out of the stadium. It's said that he, in college, jumped long ways over a ping pong table flat-footed. And if you ever saw him jump, I've seen his knees up around guys' heads when he's jumped. I've watched him dunk on the crossbar, 5'9". So, but when he was catching those fades, he wasn't jumping. It was where he was maneuvering with the player. It was said that he bench pressed 500 pounds. He weighed 180. He bench pressed 500 pounds. He could throw the ball 60 yards. He actually, I think it was O.J. McDuffie that could throw the ball further than Marino. But Mark Clayton could still throw the ball like 60 yards. He was a freak at 5'9". And if you've seen the highlights, he's a guy. Now, this is my big distinguishing feature between him and Mark Duper. And that's why Mark Duper, I can't put him on the people to try and do this. And like I said, I can do more. I would love to do Richmond Webb. Bob Kuechenberg, he's one that I would love to do a Making the Case for the Hall of Fame. Dick Anderson would be a good one, making the case for the Hall of Fame. I wouldn't do it for Mark Duper because he put up good numbers. He actually retired as the Dolphins' all-time leading yardage. But even though Clayton had the season record for yards, he had the season record for receptions, and of course we know he had the season reception for his 18 touchdowns, which still stands today. Now, granted, Cheetah has broke his yardage record, which just got broke not this past year, but year before last. And then, of course, O.J. McDuffie originally broke his reception record, and then wow, I went completely blank on what his name, Jarvis Landry broke it, and then of course now the Cheetah has it. And but when he retired, when you look at it, I think the most interesting thing, and he was a physical receiver at 5'9". He was very physical. Mark Duper was not. Mark Duper was, he's going to outrun you because he was literal lightning. But he was going to outrun you. But if you beat him up a little bit, wasn't his thing. Nothing against that. It just wasn't his thing. Mark Clayton is going to fight you. Mark Clayton is going to fight for every yard. I watched him run into guys twice his size and keep churning. I watched him pull people into the end zone. And it was just amazing time after time. Now, he did have some seasons, I think, of course, 87, he didn't, that was the strike year. He was hurt in 89 and only played like half the season. I'm sorry, not 89, it was 90. I think he was hurt in 89 as well, but he was really hurt in 90 when they went back to the playoffs. He did come back for the playoffs, had a great game against Buffalo. Everybody remembers the big winner loss, 10-point loss to Buffalo in Buffalo. where Duper took the big long reception and Mark Clayton was all over the place. It was a great game, and for all my old Dolphins fans, that was an absolute great game. I knew it was over as soon as Mark Logan fumbled that ball in the second half. As soon as he fumbled it and Buffalo got it, I knew we wasn't going to catch him because we were only down. We were only down by 3, so it could have been a shootout, and it turned out to be a shootout. But unfortunately, we didn't get to make that first shot because Mark Logan fumbled the ball on the kickoff. And Buffalo scored then. That made it a 10-point game. And guess what the final was? It was a 10-point game. So, anyway, when he retired, I think the most interesting thing he had, if you look at all of it, then no, he does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. When he retired, he was, or right now, actually, I believe it's right now. Yeah, I apologize. Which he was 5-time Pro Bowler, never made an All-Pro. Even the year he broke the records, he didn't make the All-Pro. I believe, I'm trying to think of who made All-Pro in '84. I believe it was, I started to say Gary Clark, not Gary Clark, Art Monk. And it may have been the guy in Pittsburgh at the time that made the AP that year. But it wasn't Mark Clayton. I know that, even though he broke the touchdown record that year. So, he's 108th overall in receptions today. It's not really that impressive, 108th. He's 76th in yards today. Well, that's not bad, 75%, But the only way that you can think about Mark Clayton getting in is today he's 22nd in touchdown receptions. Now let that sink in. He has not played since 1993. And he's still 22nd. He had 84 touchdown receptions in his career. 22nd today on the touchdown receptions. When he retired, he was 7th, folks. Those 84 touchdowns during that time, he was tied, actually. He was tied for 7th. If you want to go ahead and just say he was 8th, that's fine. He was still top 10. He was top 10 when he left this league in touchdown receptions. That's pretty good. Top 10 of everybody that had played up to this point, up until 1993. Now, you had players that was going to pass him. I'm not saying, but when he retired, now I'm going to give you a list of the literal players that was in front of him. Now, here's another interesting. Now, he was still, of these participants, let me just put it that way. Like I said, if you want to say he was 8th, then fine. We'll go. He's tied with Tommy McDonald. And if you don't know Tommy McDonald, go look him up. Tremendous wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. Tough as a nail, absolutely, and very quick, elusive. And for his time frame, and he played in the 60s and finished with 84 touchdowns. So that's who Mark Clayton is tied with. You know what else Tommy McDonald is? Hall of Fame. The other receivers ahead of him is Paul Warfield. Miami Dolphins might remember that name. That's right. Paul Warfield. Hall of Fame. Lance Allworth, the great Pittsburgh Steelers, 70s, Hall of Fame. Don Maynard, Green Bay Packers, Hall of Fame. Don Hudson, Hall of Fame. Steve Largent, one of my favorite receivers, Seattle Seahawks, Hall of Fame. And the only other person that caught more touchdowns than Mark Clayton, the one, the only, Jerry Rice. Let that sink in. When Mark Clayton retired, there was only 7, well actually there was only 6 that was ahead of him. Him and Tommy McDonald were tied. So you had Jerry Rice, Steve Largent, Don Hudson, Don Maynard, Lance Allworth, Paul Warfield, and did I say Lance Allworth was Pittsburgh Steelers? I did, didn't I? Actually, he was the Chargers. Anyway, sorry. Paul Warfield, Browns and Dolphins, and then Tommy McDonald. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So he would have been tied for 7th. Only 6 players ahead of him. Now, you take those, we'll take those 7 players. Only 3 of those players had more receptions than Mark Clayton did when he retired. And then when you get to yardage, 4 of them had more yards than he did when he retired. So when you look at the names that he was with when it comes to touchdowns, Mark Clayton's Hall of Fame. If you look at touchdowns, Mark Clayton's Hall of Fame. And you got to remember, the Dolphins, as much as they were a wide open passing attack, it wasn't like today. You know, your number one receiver, Chase, whoever you want to throw in there, of course, Tyreek. But you pick your top receiver for any team, you know, they're getting 7 catches is kind of the should have, you know. It ain't nothing for people to catch 100 balls, which Mark Clayton said it best. When he went to Green Bay, there was a big joke about, you know, Sterling Sharp was saying, you know, it's going to be nice to have a real number 2 here, and Mark Clayton's like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're going to be my number 2, which they were good friends. But Mark Clayton did make a comment because he hadn't caught the type of passes that Sterling had caught. But he made the comment, he's like, hey, if somebody throws me 200 passes, I bet you I can catch half of them too. Well, look around the league. Lord knows that's what it was with Tyreek when he was going for his 2,000 yards. I mean, he was targeted ridiculous amount when I think those balls should have went to Jalen Waddle. Anyway, my point is, it was a different time. And Duper and Clayton, yeah, they would get 9-10 catches in a game. But then the next 4, they might get 3, 4 catches, 5 catches. You know, 4 and 5 catch range is where they were at. And a lot of people are like, how is that possible? Marino was complete. That's because Marino threw to the open guy. They asked him one time, hey Dan, who was your favorite receiver? The open one. And he didn't force the ball to Mark Clayton. He didn't force it to Mark Duper. He threw to the open guy, or the guy that he was going to make open. And a lot of people say that Mark Clayton has suffered the fact that he did play with Dan Marino. Mark Clayton said this about Dan Marino. When he first met him, he walked up and Mark Clayton looked him dead in the eye which he would have had to have looked up. Again, 5'9", 6'4", you do the math. He said, we're going to make you a star. And they did. Don't get me wrong. Dan Marino, greatest passer of all time, my favorite player of all time. But go look at his numbers after Clayton and Duper left. They never really replaced him. And I love O.J. McDuffie. I do think he was a great player. And I'm talking about time-wise, time frame. Irving Fryer, great player, loved him. Hated the time of the Eric Green and Keith Jackson days, even though I know Keith Jackson played with Mark Clayton and Mark Duper. But just the whole, that's when we got into the whole, we're going to force it to the tight end. But Mark Clayton didn't play in that time frame. He didn't play where he was going to get the catches. The yards that he got was what he manifested on what catches he did get. And to finish your career, not only in the top 10, not even in the top 10, he was in the top 8 all-time touchdowns. So I think when you round it off, do I honestly think he's a Hall of Famer? No, I don't. And it's hard for me because I think he deserves it. I really think Mark Clayton deserves it. If you watched him play, he was all heart. There was no give up. There was no, he was going to fight you every minute for 60 minutes. And it was an amazing, amazing career to watch. I hate that it ended the way it did with Miami. It would have been great if Miami would have signed him back so he could retire a Dolphin. Because I don't think they ever did that for him. I know they did it for Marino and a few more. And I'd have to look it up. I haven't looked it up. So I could be wrong. If I'm wrong in the comments, hey, hit me up. Let me know. Yeah, he came back. They gave him that $1 contract so he could retire a Dolphin. But I don't think he did. I know he didn't leave on very good terms with the organization at that particular time. But as far as making the case, yeah, I do think he deserves it. But it's hard for me to say that he should be in. And I know a lot of people are going to look at that and go, isn't should be in and deserve to be in the same thing? I guess it's your terminology. Because for me, should is that undeniable, absolutely, this guy should be in the Hall of Fame. When you look at deserves, that means to me there's a little bit of a question mark. It's the Eli Mannings, it's the Phillip Rivers, it's the so many players that played their hearts out. So in that frame, you can say they deserve it. They played well enough to deserve it. But I can't say that he should be. That he should be a Hall of Fame. But my God, he deserved it. Mark Clayton, my favorite receiver of all time. A guy I loved to watch, and it was an amazing time. It was an absolute amazing time. And for anybody out there that sees this, let me know how you felt. I'm talking about the old Dolphin heads like me. that got to watch Mark Clayton in his prime, and I was lucky enough to see that. I didn't become a Miami Dolphins fan until 1980, really 86. 85 is actually when I kind of became a Dolphins fan. 86 is when I really paid attention. And so, Dolphin Nation, I guess you can blame me, because I became a fan in 85, and 85 was the last time they had went to a championship at that particular time, and it was downhill from there until we got to early 90s. So apparently I'm bad luck. But that being said, to all Dolphin Nation, I apologize. But I don't, because I enjoyed the ride. I enjoyed watching Mark Clayton. I enjoyed watching those teams. I rooted every day, even when it got to a point where it was like, you know, I knew we wasn't going anywhere, but I still had faith every week that somehow number 13 and number 83 were going to pull something out of the hat. Whether it was upsetting Chicago, in Chicago. Now, I'm not even talking about the big 85 Super Bowl run that Chicago done. I'm talking about like 1991. Dolphins wasn't going to go anywhere, but they needed a game so badly, and they played Chicago, and that was the big Mark Clayton slide, because snow all over the place, and he slides down. Him and the defensive back gets tangled up, and he literally slides, and the ball goes right into his chest. He jumps up, and of course the Dolphins kick a field goal, win that game. Of course, there was the 1990 Marino to Mark Clayton a comeback against the Kansas City Chiefs. Tremendous game. The interesting thing in that game, Mark Clayton dropped a wide open pass over the middle, on that same drive, and he turned. He was done trying to figure out where he was going with the ball, and just dropped the ball. And then like 2 plays later, you see Marino throw a low outside pass that was it was going to be Clayton, or it was going to be incomplete, and somehow Clayton got down low enough. Literally, the ball it was skimmed like right off the turf, or right off the grass, and he could have done a backward crab crawl into the end zone, because the defensive back, I wish I could think of his name. He was extremely good for Kansas City at that time. Drop a spot in the comments if you remember who the cornerback was for Kansas City, All Pro. He was tremendous. But anyway, if the ball would have been any higher, it would have been an interception, touchdown going the other way. And Marino put that thing so low to the outside, and Clayton just dipped it right off the grass, and great win. Of course, we go on to lose to the Bills the next week. Story of Miami Dolphins' lives since the early 90s is lost to the Bills the next week, lost to the Bills the next week. Still happening today. But again, going over everything, 5-time Pro Bowler. He did have some injury years where he was still very productive. But again, the fact of the people that are in the Hall of Fame that was in front of him, and one of them tied with him for 7th place, actually, all time when he retired. So tell me what you think. Does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? I think his play on the field, yes, he deserves. I think he deserves it in the sense of he played his heart out, was always clutch inside the 20. Like I said earlier, he could get those fade routes, and he could jump out of the stadium, and he was, for 5'9", 180 pounds, he was as strong as anybody on the field. So if he would have had the opportunities that wide receivers get today, then I think he would have had some ridiculous numbers. But that wasn't Miami's offense, and it wasn't really Marino's thing either. He's never been a. It's always he distributed the ball, 3 to the tight end, 4 to this wide receiver, 5 to this wide receiver, fullback, 2 to this running back, 4 to this running back. He was just that was his style. Like he said, his favorite receiver was the open receiver, and but if you would have targeted him the way that receivers are targeted today, I think it would be ridiculous. Now, would he be up in Jerry Rice land or Randy Moss land? No, I'm not saying that. But especially in the touchdown scenario, I think he would still be. I mean, he's 22nd now. Overall, 22nd. Retired in 93. So would he still be top 10 in touchdowns if he would have been targeted the way receivers are targeted today? I think so. I think he would have been. So that being said, I know should he be in the Hall of Fame? Probably not. Just because the other aspect, the receptions and the yards, probably not where they should be. But when it come to end zone, he was as good as anybody in the league. Led the league twice, if not 3 times, I believe. I know he led twice, and in my head, I'm thinking it was actually 3 times. Led the league in touchdowns. But leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Is Mark Clayton a Hall of Famer? Is he not? In my mind, he definitely did enough to deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Should he be? It's really hard to say because of those receptions and yards and them being a little lower on that totem pole. But let me say this. Mark Clayton is my favorite receiver that ever played for Miami. And thank you. Thank you for just breaking that mundane school, everyday life, and every Sunday, Monday, whatever it was, man, it was something special to watch, and I thank you for it all. Those are my boys, Marino and Clayton, 13 and 83, forever linked. And a lot of people have surpassed them now, but to do the things that they did in that time frame still is amazing. So again, let me know what you think, but to me, probably not a Hall of Famer. Probably not. But deserving, he is every bit deserving for the Hall of Fame. So guys, make good decisions, and fins up for 83, baby. Fins up for 83.